right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching. According to YouTube analytics, mostly gentlemen. I think it says that something like 90% of my viewers are male. That's something. And the worst part, though, is that the vast majority of my viewers are not are not subscribed. So maybe if you're watching this, please hit the subscribe button down there. And then you can leave comments and tell me how much you hate me and everything. It would be great, Don't you want to do that? Well, anyway, I'm heading to work now. I'm not going to put in a full day because I was called the other day to officiate a funeral today. And I'm not very good at these things. Weddings for me are much easier because I have a lot of experience at weddings. But the thing is I know I'm not that good at it, but I have faith in God that God guides me to say what has to be said. And for the most part, thank God, I've mostly been successful both in my wedding business and Rahman al-Islam if I have to officiate a funeral. To say something, I don't want my pride to get the better of me. I have made mistakes in the wedding business, and I pray to God today that I won't make any mistakes today. In the funeral today, I pray to God that I'll be there on time, which is being a little bit foolish today because I am going into work. Although I don't think it's foolish, I'm going in and being responsible, even though I'm going well above and beyond the call of duty. Not the call of duty necessarily, but I have a duty to go do my job. But to go in and work for less money than what the IRS allots for mileage, really, and I'm self-employed, so that really counts for something for me. It's showing I'm doing something l'shem mitzvah because I really care about my clients, I really care about my patients, and I hope God blesses the work of my hands. I would really like to have, I want my hopes and prayers are that I keep the job that I currently have and perhaps get a better job for the other part of my work week. But it is what it is. But I'm happy with the 2 regular jobs I have, plus weddings and other ceremonies, funerals, bar mitzvahs, and things, unveilings. Doing okay, thank God. Pretty comfortable, Baruch Hashem, and I hope and pray that I'm a good steward of whatever money God gives me, because I know I haven't been. I know I've been wasteful, I know I've been sinful, and now we're after Yom Kippur. This is the first video I'm making since Yom Kippur, and it's some people are going to question why I made videos for Yom Kippur. One was a service that I actually did Erev Yom Kippur, and the other one was because we couldn't find a cantor to perform on Yom Kippur Day, and it's probably actually better if you think about it. I'm saying from people who are probably watching this and questioning me, and question what I'm doing. I mean, I hope it worked out, but we had someone who wasn't Jewish turn on the video. The whole question is he's doing it for the Jews, but I'm sure the non-Jews are also going to enjoy the video too. So, because usually when I have a service, it's not only Jewish people. I hope it worked out. That's what I made the video for. They said they were going to have it. Now, if someone who's not from is going to misunderstand this and perhaps be offended by it, and I apologize for that. It's only because there's maybe misunderstanding or whatever, and I apologize for the misunderstanding. I don't apologize for my religion, but I apologize for misunderstanding. Rabbi Fishman says any religion worth apologizing for is worth apologizing for. something like that. I don't remember what he said exactly, but something along those lines. But in any event, certainly if they were going to we're trying to find someone local who would walk, but then they'd have to miss some of davening, and they'd probably, make it more difficult for them to fast. Possibly they might have had someone who wasn't from who was going to drive. So which is really better? Think about it. Obviously, it's better to have maybe some shaila v'mir la'akum, which is probably not even a shaila. It's probably not even really a malacha, and there's all kinds of other inyanim there, as opposed to if someone would have been Chal Shabbos, Chal Yom Tov, Chal Yom Kippur, and come with a car to do the service, so we're, whatever it is, we're very blessed with modern technology and things, and I think it's more clear that driving a car, unless it's a totally electric car, is more likely to get a malacha than turning on a computer or something like that. Putting in a DVD. We tried to burn the DVD, it didn't work. I don't know, I don't know exactly what happened, but it seems like it's something good that'll work out maybe for the future as well. We'll look into that. But this is the first video after Yom Kippur, and it's a time of introspection, a time to look into our life, what we're doing. We heard about the horrible events last night in Las Vegas. I'm not going to comment on that right now, but I'm certainly praying for the victims. But right now I have this responsibility of figuring out what am I going to say at this funeral today. And I read a little bit about this gentleman whose life we're honoring today. And he seemed like a very wonderful, colorful character, beloved person in his community. And so this video, in a way, I'm not talking, it's going to remain private, so I'm not going to talk, but this is basically my practice, my audition, even though I'm sharing it with the world, I know not that many people watch my videos right now, but who knows, in the future, it's here. Maybe it'll help some other clergy person who's struggling to try to prepare a funeral eulogy for someone they don't know. You think back, the way things go quite often at funerals. I think about, there's an episode of The Simpsons, and their aunt passed away. It's one of the early episodes, and there's a minister up there, and he said he was a kind man, he was a loving man, he was beloved by people, and they loved him. And then someone comes up and whispers, "That's a woman." It's like, what? That's a woman? Oh, I'm sorry. I guess I could salvage most of what was said here, And it would be funny if it wasn't true. The fact of the matter is that things like this happen all the time at these funerals. That you have these rent-a rabbis, rent-a pastors, whoever it is, performing a funeral for someone they don't know, and they're not really prepared. They didn't really do the proper research. On the other, my rabbi, he tells a story about, there was a man who I remember in the shul. He had one leg, and one of the guests who would come very regularly, I was 13, 14, 15 years old, And one of the guests who come regularly, who I remember very fondly, pointed to this Ephraim Rotblat, and he said, Yitzchak Zev, that's a Jewish hero. And the stories that we heard about him, about what he did in Russia, fighting for Yiddishkeit against all odds, fighting against the communists to keep religion alive despite at the risk of his very life. I think time and time again we have to reflect on how much worse, as bad as the Nazis were, and we cannot minimize the evil of the Nazis, but the communists were much, much worse. The communists killed many more people than the Nazis, and somehow history whitewashes the communists, whereas 50, 60 years ago, the communists were the enemies, and now we were really this close to having a communist president. And the fact of the matter is, for the past 8 years, we basically had a communist president. And the thing is, in the past, we've also had, before the Cold War era, we also had people like Woodrow Wilson and FDR who were very problematic. FDR was also a bit of a fascist, and he put people into internment camps, and that was a Democrat, and that's really what the Democratic Party still is to this day. Of course, I'm not going to talk about this in the funeral because I know a lot of people get offended. I can commiserate with the emotional feelings that people have. I'm thankful to God that I was given this gift yesterday. I mean, I was so upset. One of my favorite comedians, performers, wrote on Twitter, none of our fans are Trump supporters. And it really offended me. I was like, first of all, why would you say that? And I kept my mouth shut. It bothered me inside, but I kept my mouth shut. And I realized, this is this snowflake feeling that people, I don't like to use that term, I don't like to be offensive, I don't like to, and I felt the same way, offended, because here's someone who I love, someone who I met once, I have his autograph. I was very impressed meeting him. It was a pleasure to meet him, but more than that, I just enjoyed his performances that have been around for 30 years now, and almost 30 years, 28 years. So someone who I really, I'm a big fan of. And I don't consider myself necessarily a Trump supporter, but the thing is, to be honest, first of all, I'm very happy with what my expectations of Trump were very low. I voted for him very reluctantly. But the issues I have with Trump, most of the people who oppose him fit that bill. I mean, most of the things I had issues with Trump are things that really the people who hate him should really love about him. And the thing is, to be honest, he's doing pretty well. He's not as problematic as I thought he would be, and I'm quite happy with him. Not 100% happy. This one, and I would much rather have Pence or Ted Cruz or Ben Carson as president. But my feeling was and always has been that here you have a man who's right in the middle, Donald Trump. He's someone who should be uniting the country, and he's doing his damn best to try to unite the country. And the powers that be are just fighting against him, and it's really tragic because he's really a middle-of-the-road guy who really should make everybody happy. If you really think about who he is, what he represents. And I don't know why people hate him so much, but the thing is, I understand there's emotions. The same thing as with Zionism. When I was more along the Zionist lines, I understand the kind of emotions that Zionists feel when they hear anti-Zionist ideas, and how shocking it is to them that everything that they've been sold is a lie, and how they just basically therefore they just go along with whatever, But, whoa, what is this? Was that an accident? I don't know. So anyway, so it really hurt my feeling, and I could have reacted. I could have said, well, I'm not going to watch it anymore, but no, I enjoy this particular actor, comedian. I understand he's probably dealing with some emotional issues about the president, and I can understand how the media is spinning what's going on in Puerto Rico to make the president look bad, when it's really not his fault. The thing, and also, it's a lesson to me also, about how I felt about President Obama. Because to me, and I still feel this way, I still feel like President Obama got he was totally corrupt, and he got a free pass. Every day was like Teapot Dome scandal, but because he was a Democrat, he got a free pass, and because he was half African and half American, they gave him a free pass. Not really. I mean, I guess that makes him African American, but he's, he was only half African, and his father was not an African American. He was just an African, which is fine. I don't care what color skin someone's. Like I said, I would love it if Ben Carson was president. I would love it if, Alan Keyes. When I was a kid, I was all gung-ho for Alan Keyes, Ben Carson really, I think, is a really great man, one of the greatest people alive today. Certainly, he's a man who has incredible integrity. He took himself up from the lowest levels, where he was like a street thug. He was a violent person, and he turned himself into a peaceful, loving, honorable man. He's like a Reish Lakish of our generation. He's he's really quite an incredible person. And I would have loved him to be president, but I can understand why Trump, in a way, is a better president than Ben Carson perhaps would be. I don't know, whatever it is, but let's put that aside. I really wanted to prepare for this funeral. Now, again, we're talking about a man who lived a very long and happy life. And I am not the type of person who generally at funerals say we're here to celebrate a life. But this is a funeral where I feel that that's apropos. Perhaps I would say that, certain clergy, when they get up to speak. And another thing, I was at a funeral of a man who I had met and who I would have been very honored to officiate at his funeral. And instead they got some Lubavitcher kid, because he happened to be the local rabbi. And it's proper that he had the job, because he is the local rabbi of the Sun now, even though I was, until he stole away the congregation, this Lubavitcher kid. But it's neither here nor there. It's interesting. I'm fascinated. I don't know how they do it. Some kind of kishuf. But, the guy barely speaks English. And usually Lubavitchers, they usually speak English. And, I don't know. He's a good chazan, though. That I'll give him. When he's saying the Kel Mole, that he always gives his all. But I've been at a few funerals that this kid did, and he just... And a chusher of people, very important people, that he officiated their funerals, and I don't understand how he didn't open his eyes to represent the godless of the people who he was eulogizing. Instead, he just gets up and reads their biography a little bit, and it's like there's so many beautiful, meaningful, deep things you could say about... I was at 2 funerals that this kid did, and I don't understand. Whatever, it's none of my business. Let it be what it is. The British look feared the Welt. That's how it is. I'm not jealous. I'm just I wish him well, because I wish that he would be more matzliach in what he's doing if he's going to do this stuff. If he really thinks that he's good at being a rabbi, he better be good at being a rabbi. I don't know. I mean, and most people say, well, Joe, you're not that good at being a rabbi either. Look at how many jobs you've lost. I guess you're right. Maybe, I don't know, but I still think I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I know I'm good at where I am right now, and I'm thankful to God for that. It's not me, it's God giving gifts to humanity, and I don't mean that in an arrogant way. I'm trying to mean that in a humble way. But how do we reflect? How do I not make the same mistakes that these people made? It's the same. I mean, I was at a wedding once that I kind of wanted to do. It was one of my wife's good friends. I really wanted to do the wedding, and one of her friends is also an ordained minister, and oh my God, she got up and she was like, my name is so-and-so. Who the hell cares what your name is? Why do you get up and say what your name is? That's not your job. You know why in the old days the ministers wear black robes? It's in order that you should step away and not, and like disappear, basically, and just let, and just be like a hole in the fabric of the universe to let the light of God in. And so you're a black hole. Well, not a black hole in the sense of density, scientifically speaking, but that's what I mean. Like you're supposed to disappear, and for you to get up as a minister at a wedding where nobody knows you and to say my name is so and so, that's the most arrogant and ridiculous thing. And Bichlal, there were so many nice things to say about this couple. These were two people. If there's any two people, they weren't Jewish, but I do weddings for non-Jewish couples all the time. If there are any two people that were ever made for each other, it's like these were two people who were made for each other. And whatever. I'm sorry. I'm going off in a tangent. It shouldn't be. Do I have my Gemara? Yes, Baruch Hashem. I brought the Gemara with me. I can learn a little bit. I went about 20 blot ahead of Daf Yomi. Like every now and then I would do 2 blot. Now we're having like longer blot. So like, whatever. All right. I talk about blot. I remember there was a German who, Rahman al-Islam, was nifter very young, from my yeshiva, and he tells a story of how my Rebbe, Shlita, the Kalavar Rebbe, Shlita, should have Fuh Shlema, Moshe ben Reisel should have Fuh Shlema, how he he used to go to yeshivas, modern yeshivas, go and take kvitlach from kids. Didn't take money, of course. He never took money. Any time I remember Kalavar Rebbe, if I remember once I gave him $1, and he's like, I don't need your money. He threw it back at me, and so he he said that the Kalavar Rebbe, he didn't tell me a number. He would usually tell the boys, learn so many blot Gemara as a tikkun for your neshama. And me, he never gave me a number. He just said, just keep learning and learning. Every blot you learn, you're going to go higher and higher and higher. And it's true. It's not just me. It's all of you. Anybody, you open a Gemara. Doesn't matter if it's Art Scroll or Sefaria, which is free online, or what's Steinsaltz, Cincino. I used to love Cincino when I was a kid. Now I'm more of an Art Scroll man. I don't know why, but I still like Cincino. I still have a warm place in my heart for Cincino. I remember someone once called it Sancino. It's really Sancino, but bring out a little bit my Italian roots there. Someone was, oh, you have those Sancino Gemaras? Let me see where I have my ID tag and my keys. So someone in yeshiva, one of was a chavrusa of mine. I think he said, oh, those Sankano. Um, and I don't need art scroll. It just makes it a lot easier, and especially they have these art scrolls that are very these ones. I don't know if anybody's seen these. I know a lot of folks have. These are just wonderful. If you it's the travel edition. It's like a thin paperback. And I remember when I was a kid, I always said, why? I understand why they had, the big, the hardcover art scroll Gemaras. They would have the Tzur Sadaf, and they would have like a little line, which a friend of mine, David Gottesman, is a big tzaddik, Rebbe Sheinikal. He said that's one of the greatest things they ever did. But I said, that I had this idea. I was like, what they should do? All right, they could have the hard, but they should make a soft cover one that just has the Tzur Sadaf on one side and just has the English with the Hebrew with the Nakudas on the other side. And they did it. And it's really great. I really love it. It's because you can carry it around everywhere. And people might pay us up because it's not so safe at the hospital. So anyway, it's just about I could go for another 5 minutes or so. Although if I upload it before I go in, it uploads better. I want to talk about this nifter. Like I said, here's a man who loved life, who lived his life. And then I'm going to say, I don't usually say we're here to celebrate a life. I find that often to be somewhat offensive to say something like that. I mean, death is something we mourn and not necessarily celebrate. But here's a man who loved life so much. How can we help but to celebrate this life? And of course, Jewish tradition requires us to mourn. And so it has to be subdued. But really, this season, these days between Yom Kippur and Sukkot are times of happiness and joy. We don't really eulogize, but rather celebrate a life, even traditionally speaking, when a funeral comes at this time of the year. And we celebrate a life of a man who celebrated life. This was a man who really lived up to what Judaism is all about. A friend of mine once asked me, is it better to wear, I don't know if I'm going to say this, but I'm thinking about, a friend of mine from high school, he asked me, which is better, a necklace he should wear, a Magen David or a Chai? And I said, it's better to wear tzitzis. But Chai, my father, who's not Jewish, he wears always a necklace that says Chai. And we always hear L'chaim to life. And the Torah says, Chai b'hem. The purpose of the Torah is that you should live by them. And, ostensibly you read that and it sounds, you should live by these laws. But the rabbis say you should live by them and not die by them. Which we usually understand to mean that, danger to life supersedes most religious obligations. With a few exceptions. But in reality, people get Judaism all wrong. They think it's just, you sit in the synagogue and you're sad, but really Judaism is life, l'chaim, to life, l'chaim. It's a lebedike emuna. It's a living faith. And this was a man who lived life You know, when you see a real, authentic rabbi, he never retires. You hear now modern rabbis talk about retirement. Retirement's not something in our vocabulary. You know, you have people who they retire at like 60 years old. Some even learn 58 years old, and then what do? You know, whereas I went to a college where the president of the college, the founder of the college, started the college. He was a rabbi also. Bernie Lander. He started the college when he was in his late 50s, early 60s, maybe even mid 60s. When most people are ready to retire, that's when he started his whole empire, and he built a worldwide massive educational empire, both of Torah education and of secular education. It's incredible. Incredible. And this man in his little, and I'm not necessarily going to mention that, but it's something to reflect on. And this man in his small town was beloved by everybody. When they mentioned on his 90th birthday, he doesn't have an enemy in the world. And that's what Judaism's all about. And so, indeed, this is a man whose life we could celebrate. All right, I'm going to go into work now. Pray for me, everybody. Wish me well that I should make a Kiddush Hashem today. Thank you for watching. Leah and her. Please like, share, and subscribe, and comment, and be in touch. God bless.